One of the big stories today, convicted killer Alex Murdaugh sentenced to 27 years in state prison for more than 100 state financial charges.
Murdaugh is currently serving 2 consecutive life terms for the fatal shootings of his wife and son in 2021.
Joining us once again, our expert attorney, Carl B. Grant. So, Carl, watching the sentencing today, I mean, it's hard to kind of believe that we've reached this point. Tell us more about why Judge Newman decided to wait until the victims of Murdaugh's financial crimes before he could announce the sentence if he already agreed to that plea of his crimes.
Because the victims have rights. It's called the Victims' Rights Amendment.
That's a good point, yeah.
Yes, entitles the victims to be present in the courtroom to make their commentary about what impact the crimes had upon them. That right it actually kicks in even at the bond hearing. The victim can show up and make comments there. But certainly at the sentencing proceeding, the victims are entitled to be there to tell the court the story of how that criminal impacted their lives and what punishment he or she thinks they should get as a result of that.
Wow.
Something I found interesting today, and Judy, I know that you would know this, covering court cases over the years, you typically don't see where the victims are able to address their person that hurt them directly, and then the person convicted or accused of the crimes isn't allowed to address the victims directly as well. But today, the victims were able to almost talk directly to Alex Murdaugh. How unusual is that?
That's very unusual. Naturally, the judge is in charge of the courtroom, so the judge determines whether or not you speak to the victim, or in most cases, it's been my experience, the judge says, don't talk to the victim, don't talk to the defendant, speak to me. Right. You make your comments to me about the defendant, but do not address the defendant directly or engage with him, making eye contact. And the reason why, because that could be provocative. You see, so that's why the judge tells the victims to speak to him about the defendant as opposed to addressing the defendant himself.
Right, and wanting, again, to protect those victims' rights and not put them through more than what they've already been through. You know, what was your take, Carl, on his demeanor in the courtroom today? Because, you know, they said that in statements that he made that he still is maintaining his innocence regarding the murders of his wife and son, that he believes that SLED and the state attorney general targeted him for the murders because of these financial crimes. I mean, just still, I don't know, just his composure in the courtroom. Are you surprised by it at all?
Well, those comments, you got to realize that if indeed a new trial is had, those comments are made to appeal to a potential new jury. I'm saying once again, I did not do it. I did not commit the crimes. I'm innocent of these crimes. Yes, I've been convicted on the first trial, but if there's another trial, I want the new jury to hear me say one more time that I did not do it. And with regards to his demeanor, here's the point. He knew exactly what he was going to get, regardless of what the victims and their lawyers who spoke so eloquently, regardless of what they said, because it was a negotiated sentence, meaning he knew exactly what the sentence was going to be, and they've already established that. So regardless of what they said, regardless of the arguments, regardless of the tears, regardless of the passion, the sentence would be exactly what it was the moment he pled and established that it was a negotiated sentence of 27 years.
And we saw that Murdaugh addressed the courtroom and the victims for nearly an hour today.
Yeah.
Is that typical when it comes to the defendants being able to speak for that long?
Well, he has the right to obviously have his say as well, just like the victims have the right to have their say. Again, it's the judge's discretion how long he allows people to speak in his courtroom. So that is unusual, but again, if you are the defendant, Alex Murdaugh, you're taking every opportunity to possibly influence a new jury if you have to go to trial for a new murder trial.
So all a strategy with him, you believe?
I would think that it probably is.
Well, I was going to say, I'm just reminded, I mean, he's been disbarred, but he is still a lawyer. I mean, he knows the legal system and knows how all of this works and what will play in his favor.
You can take away his license, Judy, but you can't take away his experience.
Very true, very true. What was your assessment, Carl, of the cross-examination today of trial lawyer Ronnie Crosby by trial lawyer Dick Harpootlian?
Well, that was a very interesting exchange. I call it the battle of the Titans. So when the Titans battle, younger, less experienced lawyers like me we become kind of awed, but at the same time, I thought that was a good exchange between two experienced lawyers.
Yeah.
Those are both good lawyers, and they had that exchange, and that's pretty much all I can say about that.
Okay.
Yeah. And something else that has developed in the Murdaugh saga over the past few days, even before today's hearing, we now know that Rebecca Hill, that her son, the Colleton clerk of court, was arrested recently on wiretapping charges. I know it's unrelated to Murdaugh, but any way that the Murdaugh's lawyers could possibly use this while trying to argue a case about Becky Hill?
This is relatively new, Billy. So we don't really know what the circumstances are. So at this point, all I can say is yes, it happened. Clearly he was arrested.
Yeah.
But Slade is still trying to determine the circumstances that led to his arrest, all the circumstances pertaining to. Now, one interesting thing that I found out is that Becky Hill's phone was also seized. So now the question is, what will come out of that?
Yeah.
Will there be anything in that phone that ties to that particular arrest?
Yeah, everybody's waiting to see if there's going to be a Perry Mason moment that's revealed as all of this proceeds forward. Any surprises today? I mean, you said this was pre-negotiated, so I mean, this is what we pretty much expected, but the next big thing in this case, we'll look to see what happens with the request for the new trial.
Well, I just want to make sure everyone understands. Yes, his sentence is going to be 27 years in prison, 85%, but do not forget about the fact that he will get credit for the time that he already served towards that sentence.
Yeah.
By statute, he is entitled to day-per-day time credit for the time that his bond was denied on the charges that he pled to, and he remained in jail. I can't remember how much time that was, but whatever it is, his sentence will be discounted by statute, day per day.
Excellent point.
Yes.
Excellent point.
Thank you, Carl, so much for coming on this show, always breaking it down in a way that we all understand.
Yeah, that expertise, invaluable. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.